Welcome to Cape Fear Business Roundtable. I'm Frank Williams, and today's guest is Olivia Dawson, who is the Director of Tourism for Pender County. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that she's also the mayor of Burgaw, but that's not what we're talking about today.
That's
That
right.
might be a different podcast at another time. And Olivia, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And before we jump in, I am going to mention our two sponsors. One is Pioneer Strategies, which is a public relations and strategic communication firm here in Leland. If you need help with a website, logo, digital advertising, or just need someone to manage your entire communication program, you can check them out at pioneerstrategies.com. The other sponsor is their sister company under the same roof, Pioneer Specialties. And Pioneer Specialties is a promotional products distributor that has access to over 1 million products from 4,300 suppliers worldwide. And you can check them out at pioneerspecialties.promo. And yes, that is a correct domain extension, .promo, pioneerspecialties.promo. So with that, let's dive in. And again, thank you for joining us. And I always like to jump in with some more personal non-business questions. And so I guess the
Sure.
first one is, obviously our whole region has seen lots of people moving in from other places. In Brunswick County, where I live, there are probably more people who are not from here than those who are from here. So tell us a little bit about your background. Are you from Pender County? And if not, how long have you been there? Just, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually, I am born and raised in southeastern North Carolina. Grew up most of my life in Burgaw.
Okay.
Went to middle school and high school here. Worked my first jobs here when I was, as soon as I turned 16. I worked many locations around the community and in town. And so I never really left. As far as I've gone and moved was to Wilmington for a couple of years for school and work. But other than that, born and raised, I grew up as a small child in Rose Hill, Duplin County,
Okay.
which is where my mom's family is from, and my dad is from the Wilmington area. So I know, live and breathe southeastern North
Right.
Carolina and North Carolina itself.
Well, we have that in common. I grew up right here in the same district where I live now in northern Brunswick County outside of Leland. So, you mentioned your first job. What was that first job at 16?
My first job, so again, as soon as I turned 16, the day after I turned 16, I worked a job, if not two, which is, I guess, kind of, you look back and you're like, oh, well, I hold two or three different titles now, right? It's just like me to always at least work two jobs. But anyways, I was a hostess at a Chinese restaurant. It was a place where many of us, mostly girls, worked. We did a little bit of everything. We were hosts and waitresses and answered phones. But Virginia, one of the owners, she also owned a hair studio next door. So I swept up hair, I washed hair, you name it, I done it. I did a
A
little
little
bit
bit
of
of
everything.
everything. My first job was also in a restaurant, bussing tables in a seafood restaurant. I'm glad I don't do that now, but I think everybody should have to do that at least once in their life. I think that
Oh,
if
absolutely.
everybody had to wait tables or work in a restaurant for about 2 months, the world would be a better place because of what they would learn. But that's a whole different
Absolutely.
podcast. We could talk about that for a
Yeah,
few
we can talk
hours
about it
too.
another time. But it was a
And
very good experience. I loved it. I did a little bit of waitressing for years. It's just what you do while you're growing up and going to school.
exactly.
So,
And well, what is your favorite non-work thing to do or place to go in southeastern North Carolina?
wow, I know. I was thinking about that. I love, in southeastern North Carolina or North Carolina as a whole, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of things to do here.
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, just even here in Burgaw, I'm like, I could write you an itinerary. I'll leave home and say I'll be back in a few minutes, and I'm gone for a couple of hours. But I'm just supposed to be running to the store, right? But although I love the beach, I think as I've gotten older, I do really love the river. That is something we spend a lot of time outdoors during the spring and summer and fall when it's not too cold. But I really enjoy being outdoors, being outside, and again, being on the river. We have a boat, and so going out there is something I really enjoy. But at the same time, I just love doing a lot of different things. I don't know that I have any one favorite thing that supersedes the rest.
And I think that's probably a good fit for what you do because, and we'll talk more about that in a moment, but part of what you do is tell people what there is to do in Pender County, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But
Right.
talking about your career journey, how did you end up as Pender County's tourism director? What path led you to this job?
So, again, with a focus more in the beginning of my, teenage years, once I graduated high school into my, early 20s or so, I was, had a healthcare background, but really focused on business administration as well. I liked business administration, the whole picture of why somebody, if you work at the front desk,
Right.
and from the time the patient or somebody leaves, or again, I loved the restaurant business. I mean, I just kind of had a feel for that, and sometimes you don't realize that until later in life. And then also growing up, we went to a lot of parades and festivals and events. It was just kind of what we did, and I grew up going to the Zaya Festival every year, and I had the opportunity to join the North Carolina Blueberry Festival as a secretary for the event, or for the board, and then started taking over as the director and festival coordinator. So I did that for about 7 years, and in that, just developed my love even further for hospitality and tourism and festival management. And then had the opportunity to roll over to Pender County Tourism, where I've worked now for over 7 years. You kind of lose count. And that
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. When you're having fun, and then when you do the same thing, year after year. But
That's true as well.
right. And so I think, I do have the honor now to serve as tourism director. I've been the director for just over a year now. Just hard work, perseverance, just doing my homework, being involved. I feel like has given me the opportunity to move forward into the director position.
Yeah, and talking about all the fairs and festivals and community events, I think most people who attend those have no idea how much work goes into making something like that happen. I mean, the Azalea Festival is obviously the one of the bigger ones in this area, if not the biggest. And there's so much behind the scenes work that goes into producing something like that, so that people can come out and enjoy a day in their community. And I'm sure you've seen that from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many moving parts, and yes, until you're involved, you don't realize how much involvement there is, and how much work it takes, and a lot of organization, and then rules and process and
Right.
procedure to follow as well. So until you are behind the scenes, it may look a lot easier than it really is. But
Absolutely.
it's also not it's hard work, but it's also fun. It's a fun job, can be.
And that's a good lead in. Most people probably don't know what a tourism director does. That certainly was not talked about in career day when I was in middle school and high school. So tell us a little bit about what you do on a given day, and what the job entails.
Sure, yeah. So as a tourism director, and as the tourism office of Pender County, you may hear us refer to them a lot of times as DMOs, which is Destination Marketing Organizations. Right. And then for some other locations across North Carolina or the United States, CVBs, Center of Visitor Bureau of Convention of Visitors Bureaus.
Right.
And so we consider ourselves a DMO, and we work closely. We represent the county, and we work closely with Visit NC to serve as the official destination marketing organization of the county. And our job is to promote our county. It involves economic development, but mostly tourism, why we want people to visit here. And that goes even so for our locals, but we want our locals to know what's going on here just as well as our visitors. But also a goal, and what funds a lot of our departments, are occupancy tax. And that's where we get visitors to come in, and we want them to spend the night here. We want them to come in, spend the night, visit the area, and support local. And that is good for all of our communities. But our job for Pender County is to promote Pender County to its fullest, and to get people to visit here inform visitors of all of our attractions and why we want them to visit here. Again, that stimulates our economy, and that is really what a lot of the gist of our jobs are. However, we work a lot on the bigger scale as well. We work closely with Mountains to Sea Trail, which is the trail that runs from the mountains to the coast, and we have a segment that runs through Pender County. Occasionally Cycle and Sea, Outdoor and Sea. We work with a lot of partners and organizations and groups that drive tourism or help drive tourism to our areas outside of what is within the county.
And that makes sense. And talking about promoting Pender County to its fullest, obviously you've got a lot of other tourism destinations in this area. You know, New Hanover County is certainly a big one. Carteret County, Craven County, Brunswick County, where I live. How do you make Pender County stand out? What do you think are your selling points? Obviously, I want them to come to southeastern North Carolina, but while they're here, what do you show them about Pender County that is your selling point?
Well, you know, Pender County is unique in the fact that we have the beaches. And a lot of folks don't know that when you say Pender County that we have beaches. Until you say Topsail Beach or Surf City. And they're like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that's in Pender County. But then for some of us, we always refer to our towns versus just our counties as a whole, right? Sometimes I even have to say, tell me what town that's in, or when they're speaking of other counties, if I don't recognize the county. But again, what makes us unique is we have beaches and we have a lot of agriculture. And so, of course, throughout the county, we celebrate blueberries, but of course, on the more western side, that is something, you know, Burgaw being home of the North Carolina Blueberry Festival and the blueberry industry, something we really capitalize on. And as well as, you know, we've got historic downtown Burgaw, and then again, we've got the beaches of Pender County. And then we've also got Morris Creek National Battlefield, which is very unique and a big piece of history that brings a lot of visitors to the area as well. And then we want to bring out the hidden gems that may promote a unique experience that you may not get anywhere else, or that you may be able, I don't want to say that you can't get anywhere else, but we want to make sure that they know that we have those experiences here too. And southeastern North Carolina is a great place to visit. There's so much to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we just try to make sure that we capitalize on all of it between the beaches, agriculture, history, the rivers, antiques. We just try to capitalize on all of it so that we can get all the visitors that we can, but also that we target as many of those likes as possible as well.
One of the things that jumps out at me from what you're talking about is it's not just about getting them to Pender County. It's about what they experience while they're in Pender County and marketing the things to do. You know, I've seen some tourism organizations that their only goal seems to be to get you there. They don't focus on their experience. And I noticed on your website, you highlight a lot of your local community events. Can you tell us, and I think you just did, but reemphasize why it's important to highlight those events and those local things that are happening for people who are visiting your county?
Absolutely. So festivals and events, they are big economic drivers for our communities. That brings visitors in. If they're not spending the night, they're at least coming in and supporting local. And that's real important to all of our communities and counties across the state. But those, sometimes we forget and don't realize how much of economic drivers they are. And
Absolutely.
That our visitors are helping contribute to the spending that you and I might be doing. And so that's very beneficial to our small businesses and our locals.
You know, one specific event I wanted to ask you about, and it will be past tense by the time this podcast actually airs, but I believe 2 days from now you have a Pender County Tourism Summit. Can you talk a little bit about what that event is and, you know, what it's all about? And obviously I'm guessing It's something you do annually, you know, a year from now, should people plan to attend that, and what is it and why should they be there?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, being a director for a year, the Tourism Summit that we're hosting the end of February is new. We haven't done this before, and we've wanted to bring our partners and our tourism organizations together, and we do that on other occasions, but and other, of course, again, other counties and communities have it. And but I saw something that came across my desk, and I thought, that we need to do that here. Again, it's just a way to bring some of our tourism partners together. Some ideas are sometimes best borrowed than recreating the wheel. But so this is going to be the first one, and I'm excited about it. And of course, it's the first one, and so we're really just getting started. We've got some speakers from Visit NC and from Chris Kavanaugh, which is really dives into data and support of the tourism industry, and then somebody that's going to speak on the hospitality workforce and how important that is to our communities. And then of course we'll talk about in-house, just how tourism has looked for the county in 2023 and in 2024, and then how we can continue to drive tourism in our area. So really excited about this first one, and of course I hope that from this point on we'll have one yearly, annually, and then that they'll always just get bigger and better and continue to be very helpful to the community and bring in speakers and again, tourism partners and organizations that drive tourism, and be able to speak about those as a whole group, a big group. And so we look like we have about 50 tourism partners and organizations coming to this first one, and that's a good number to get us started. Turnout. It is, and it's right before March, April, before the season starts to really get busy, and so that we wanted to try to bring them together and dive into maybe the needs or resources that we may be able to offer, or to make sure that we can kind of, again, support and encourage tourism as much as possible.
Well, what else should people know about Pender County that they may not already know? Anything you want to say about Pender County?
Well, Pender County just turned 150 years old, so this year
Happy birthday to Pender County.
Yes, happy birthday, Pender County. We are celebrating its 150th anniversary this year, so it turned officially 150 on February 16th. We did a small little celebration here in Burgaw, which is the county seat. We've got a historical marker that went up on the courthouse square, as well as a clock that is being put up on the square now that just will serve as a monument of something we did in its 150th year to capitalize on celebrating Pender County. But again, we hope to do that throughout the year, to kind of share our story, bring on other opportunities. That's going to happen throughout the year for Pender County. So really, and we're also asking folks who would like to donate to the time capsule to do that. We're going to have a time capsule. We'll seal that closer to the end of the year and open it up 50 years from now to see maybe what has changed.
I'm sure a lot will have changed by then with the growth we're seeing in this area.
I know, absolutely. So really excited about that. So again, people, residents, visitors, they can contribute, sentiments of Pender County that we'd like to capitalize on in that time capsule. So that's really exciting. And then again, Pender County is growing, and I know growth can be challenging and a little bit scary, but also there are improvements, right? And so there are improvements, and again, all of North Carolina is growing. People just love to come to North Carolina. We have a lot to offer, so we have to embrace it as well, right? But it brings a lot of additional exciting opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, looking at your career history and kind of how you wound up in this job, it seems like you started volunteering, and through that it turned into a career. And so tell us,
it really did.
And that's fun to be able to do something that you've enjoyed enough to volunteer doing it before you got paid to do it. So tell us what you love about what you do.
Again, as I said, tourism can be a fun job. You've got a lot of great opportunities, event planning, and we don't do a lot of festival management currently in the office, but contributing to that is really great. And of course, offering the support and then being a part of so many other opportunities. being in tourism, you don't just focus on one thing. There's always probably 12 projects going on at a time, right?
Never a dull moment. That's
right. No, it's not never a dull moment. There's always something to do. So that's real enjoyable. Again, growing up here as well, I'm really proud to be able to represent home. And then we always tell, even for ourselves, there's always something new or something you may not have experienced, and we don't always know what's in our own backyard sometimes, and being able to tell those stories
that is the
great.
truth. I mean, there are so many things to do right here. You could, not that I would advise people to never leave the area and go see what else is out there, but there's so much to do. You could occupy your whole life just looking at things in southeastern North Carolina you don't know are there.
Right, absolutely. There's so much here, but you make a good point too. I mean, I enjoy traveling to other places, and again, you're not trying to take what they have, but sometimes you're like, oh, we can do that here.
You can learn from them. Yeah,
learn things. Right, absolutely. So it's a great. I appreciate my position, and do really love my job.
Well, speaking of learning, one thing I think is good for anyone who's in their career is just what can they learn from other people who have maybe done what they want to do. So, what is a lesson that you've learned during your career that maybe you wished you'd known on day one?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Let me think on that one a moment. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know that I have a right answer, but you always look back and think, oh, I wish I knew that sooner in life. But I always tell people I enjoy going and speaking to classes, whether it's on tourism. I really enjoy going and speaking on tourism because there's not always understood what tourism office does, and it can get confusing because you always have like, oh, the tourism office is doing this, or the chamber's doing this, or the town's doing this, and so it can get confusing.
Absolutely.
So
I've been on a chamber board, and people often don't understand the difference between chamber, tourism, and economic development, which are three different functions if you think about it.
Right. So being able to explain that I enjoy that. Right. I enjoy giving, connecting the right answers or resources with locals and visitors. So I really do enjoy that. But I don't really know that it pertains to tourism necessarily, but going to speaking to classes and such, though, I always say, was this necessarily the career path I was going to go? I didn't think so, but I'm really glad or happy with the way it turns out. And you realize later in life what you're good at and what you enjoy
Absolutely.
and what you like, and so sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. Right.
Yeah, I would never have imagined when I was in high school that I'd be doing what I'm doing professionally now. I thought I was going to be an engineer or a computer programmer. I never would have imagined me doing public relations for a living. So funny how those twists and turns take us. So
it does. And again, you're always learning, and that's for me too. Again, serving as mayor and learning that. I mean, did I ever know that was, again, a career path? But I'm so glad that I learned that I liked government, and I like nonprofit work, and I don't know, they go hand in hand sometimes, or a lot of times. And so,
absolutely.
I've learned that through volunteering and just getting involved, again, the things that I really enjoy, and that I'm like, I want to be a part of that. And then also just the next generation who helps shape, our communities, Burgall, Pender County, be an influence where I can.
Now, similar question, but a different spin on it. If somebody right out of college came up to you and said, I want to be a tourism director one day, what advice would you give them when they're starting out their career as far as things that would help them along the way?
Well, another not really tough question, but, again, back to a previous comment we made earlier, the tourism industry, tourism and hospitality, parks and recreation, those have really shaped up over the last, 5 or 10 years. Some of those programs just didn't exist, even maybe in our areas, as much as they do now. And so there are definitely more players at the table than there used to be.
Absolutely.
And it sounds kind of bad, but we get paid to do this work versus sometimes volunteers used to fill all of those positions. But but for somebody that's coming into tourism and hospitality and wanting to serve as a tourism director, just say, you once obviously they're going to come, hopefully maybe come with some experience or education, but they're just kind of do your research, figure out exactly what if you're wanting to be a tourism director in a particular county or town, and really learn about that county or town and as much as you can, and that way that you're ready to come in. Because if you're not didn't grow up here, if I was to move to a different community, I'd have to, if I wasn't familiar with it, I probably wouldn't be able to promote it as well as I can my own community.
Absolutely.
So really just to kind of, again, do your homework, and then again, get involved in all of the organizations that go along with tourism, that helps helps build up your community and your relationship with its partners.
And I think that also helps them. Getting involved in those organizations would help somebody build their network. And networks are good not only for helping you move along the career path, but you can learn from those people in your network. If they've been there and done what you want to do, they've got experience that you can learn from. And to me, that's one of the most important things I would tell anybody, is get involved and build your network before you need it.
Right, well, that's very true. Networking is very important. It's not always about who you know, but it is great to know.
Yeah.
Have colleagues in a lot of different areas, and networking is so important. You do learn from each other and learn about other opportunities, and there's never a dull moment you're like, what, I didn't know that, so let me look into that. There's so much, again, potential out there and things that we don't know.
Well, to kind of wrap this up, I like to ask one more personal question at the end. So what type of movies or TV shows do you typically enjoy the most?
So I do enjoy a lot of TV and movies. I grew up as a little kid loving to watch movies. But television shows, I watch a lot of like crime shows. Typically, though, when I say that, I mean like NCIS. Right. I've watched all of the seasons of that. SWAT, and I've watched a new one called Matlock. But those are my favorite. And then, of course, when it comes to movies, I watch a lot of Hallmark movies and girly girly movies. I'm open-minded, though. I like, as long as it's not a scary movie, I can typically watch it. But if I'm sitting at home by myself, you're going to find or Christmas movies.
My wife and I like to watch a lot of the same crime shows you mentioned, and she watches the same Hallmark movies you mentioned. I'm generally reading a book while she's watching those, though.
Yeah, so those are how I kind of decompress, and or sit with my computer in my lap and watch a show or movie, so that I can multitask.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, there's nothing else I can think of. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and share a little bit about myself and Pender County, and always here to help wherever I can and promote Pender County to its fullest.
And I'm looking forward to promoting all of southeastern North Carolina on this podcast. And certainly, if you've got businesses in your community you think would be good guests, I'd love to talk with them. And thank you again for joining us today. We certainly appreciate you taking the time out. I know you've got lots to do, and we appreciate you carving out some time for us today. And I'd also like to thank everyone who tunes in and watches this. We appreciate you watching Cape Fear Business Roundtable. If you want to follow us on YouTube or any of the other social media channels or podcast platforms, go to our website. That's capefearbusiness.com, capefearbusiness.com, and all those resources are linked there. And thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.